Okay. Due to our friends in China itself, right? There's actually looking to say that I will be reading some books. So I have chosen a books that I will be reading that I would like to share with all of you. Hmm. All right. Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a bit of reading. Why? It's very much because of friends in China. Okay, as I was joining a competitions itself, right? They were asking us to be able to do even more sharings towards to say that uh can we read some books? Okay, and that's why I'm reading this book. 好，给我们大家在于内地的朋友啊，我今天开始读书喽，在读一些书，大家在于我觉得这一本书是非常有意义的，所以跟大家来做分享。The books I'm going to read itself right, is by Rich Dad, Retire Young, Retire Rich. How to Get Rich and Stay Rich by Robert Kiyosaki. This is a book itself. I love this book. I see there's a lot of different concepts I would love to share with you. So I'm going to say brief on starting from the introductions. Why David meet Goliath. The stories of David and Goliath was one of the rich dad's favorite stories. I suspect he may have seen himself as David, a man who started with nothing yet rose to compete against the giants of business. Rich dad say David could beat Goliath because David knew how to use the power of leverage. A young boy and a simple slingshot were far more powerful than the fierce giant Goliath. That is the power of leverage. My previous book was on the power of cash flow, which I say cash flow is the most important term in the world of money. The second most important is leverage. We also say leverage is the reason some people become rich and others do not. Rich Dad went on to explain that leverage is power and that power can work in your favor or against you because leverage is power. Some use it, some abuse it, and some others fear it. He said the reasons less than 5% of all Americans are rich is because 5% knew how to use the power of leverage. Many who want to become rich fail to become rich because they abuse the power. And most people do not become rich because they fear the power of leverage. There are many forms of leverages. Leverages come in many forms. One of the recognized form of leverage is the leverage of borrowing money. Today, we are aware of the severe problem of people abusing this powerful form of leverage. Millions of people struggle financially because the power of debt leverage is used against them. Because of the consequence of the abuse of debt leverage, many people now fear this form of leverage, saying, cut up your credit cards, pay off your mortgage, and get out of debt. My rich dad would chuckle and say, cutting up your credit card will make you rich. Cutting up my credit card only make me miserable. Nonetheless, rich dad agrees that if you are abusive with the power of debt leverage, you definitely should cut up your credit cards, pay off your mortgage, and get out of debt, he said. Giving a credit card to some people is like giving a loaded gun to a drunk. Anyone who is near the drunk is in danger, including the drunk. Instead of teaching us to fear the power of debt leverage, Rich Dad taught his son and me how to use the power of debt leverage in our favors. That is why he often said, there is good debt and bad debt. Good debt makes you rich and bad debts makes you poor. Most people are loaded with bad debts and many others living in fear of debt and are proud to be debt free, even to the point of being free of any good debts. In this book, you will find out how my wife, Kim, and I retire young and retire rich because we are deeply in debt with good debts that made us rich and financially free. In other words, we use the power of leverage. We did not abuse the power, nor do we live in fear of its power. Instead, we respect the power of leverage and use it wisely and cautiously. So the question is, can everyone be rich? During the hundreds of interviews I've given after the release of the first Rich Dad book, I've asked this question: do you think everyone can be rich? I reply, yes, I believe everyone has the potential to be rich. At that point, I'm often asked, if everyone has the potential to be rich, why do so few actually become rich? My usual reply is, I do not have the time today to answer their questions. They insist, I may say. Many of the answers are found in my first 4 books in the Rich Dad series. If the interviewer is persistent, they may ask something like, when will you give us all the answers? I reply, I don't know if anyone has all the answers. Even though I do not have all the answers, I'm very happy to be finally bringing this book number 5 in the Rich Dad series to you. This book will explain why I believe all of us already have the power and the potential to be very rich. And I do mean all of us, not just some of us. It will also explain how my wife Kim and I retire young and retire rich, even though we started without any money. And it will also explain why some people are rich and why others are poor, even though we all have the power and the potential to be very rich and retire young. It's all a matter of leverage. The first 4 books in the Rich Dad series was primarily about the power of cash flow. This book is about leveraging. Why one entire book? The reason is because leverage is a very big word and comprising and touching virtually everything in our life. This book will focus on 3 important forms of leverage: leverage of a mind, plan, and action. So this section 1, the leverage of the mind. That is the most important section of the books. In this section, we will find out why money does not make you rich. In this section, we will find out that the most powerful leverage in the world is your mind. It has the power to make you rich or make you poor. Just as someone can use, abuse, or fear the power of debt leverage, the same is true when it comes to your brain, a very powerful form of leverage. Words are leverage. We will find out the power of words. Rich Dad always say, words are leverage. Words are powerful tools for the brain. But just as you can use debt to make you rich or poor, words can be used to make you rich or poor. In this section, you will find out about the power of words and how rich people use rich words and poor people use poor words. Rich Dad often say, your brain can be your most powerful asset, or it can be your most powerful liability. Can you use the right words in your brain? You'll become very rich. If you use the wrong words, your brain will make you poor. In these sections, you will find out about rich words and poor words. You will find out why Rich Dad say it does not take money to make money. He said getting rich begins with your words, and words are free. Why investing is not risky. A lot of people may say that. In this book, you will find out why people who say investing is risky are some of the biggest losers in the investment market. Again, it goes back to words. You'll find out that what you think is real become your reality. You'll find out why people who think investing is risky, risky is the riskiest of all investment. It's caused by their reality. In this book, you'll find out why investing does not have to be risky. In order to find safe, high-yielding investments, people must first begin by changing your words. As stated earlier, the power of leverage can be used, abused, or fear. In this section, you will find out how to use the leverage of your brain in your financial favor rather than use it against you. Rich Dad say most people take the most powerful leverage in the world, their brain, and use their power to make them poor. That is not the use of their power. It is abuse. Every time you say, I can't afford it or I can't do it, investing is risky or I will never be rich, you are using the most powerful form of leverage you have against you. And that is abuse. If you want to retire young and retire rich, you will need to use your brain in your favor, not against you. If you cannot do that, the other 2 sections of this book will not be possible for you, even though they are easy to do. If you can gain control over your most powerful form of leverage, the next 2 sections will be easy. So section 2, the leverage of a plan. In book number 3, Rich Dad Guide to Investing, I wrote that investing is a plan. In order for him and me to retire young, we have to have a plan that started with nothing because we had nothing. The plan had an end or an exit, and it also has a time limit. Our time limit was 10 years or less. It took us 9 years retiring in 1994. I was 47 and Kim was 37. Although we started with nothing, we exited with approximately 85,000 to 120,000 a year in income without working. That's passive income. Our income was now coming solely from our investment. Even though it may not have been a lot of money, we were financially free because our expenses was less than 50,000 a year. We retire young in order to get rich. One of the advantage of retiring young is that we now had a lot of free time to get rich. By the way, Forbes magazines define rich as 1 million or more a year in income. In other words, according to Forbes, we will not get rich when we retire, knowing that one of the reasons for retiring young was so that we have the time to get rich. After retiring, our plan was to spend time investing and building business. Today, not only do we have the substantial real estate holding, we have built a publishing company, a mining company, a technology company, and an oil company, as well as investing in the stock market. As Rich Dad often say, the problem with having a job is that it gets in the way of getting rich. I agree to that. In other words, we retire young so that we would have the time to become rich. Today, our income per year from our investment and businesses is in the millions and is climbing steadily. Even after the stock market crash, everything is going according to plan. In book number 3, Rich Dad Guides to Investing, I wrote that most people have a plan to be poor. And that is why so many people say, when I retire, my income will go down. In other words, they were saying, I plan on working hard all my life and then I have become poorer after I retire. Isn't that crazy? Then after that, there would have been an okay plan in the industrial age, but there is a very poor plan in the information age. Millions of workers are now counting on their retire plans such as 401k, IRA, superannuations of Australia, RRSP, plans of Canada, and other plans such as in Singapore CPF to be there when they retire. These plans are what I call information age retirement plans. I call them that because in the information age, employees are now responsible for their retirement. In the industrial age, it was the company or the government that would take care of their financial needs once their working days are over. That is one tragic flaw in this information age retirement plan. The flaw is that most of these plans are indexed to the stock market. And as you may have noticed, stock market go up and stock market go down. It shocked me to realize that millions and millions of hardworking people are now betting their financial future and their financial security on the stock market. What will happen to these workers if, for example, they are 85 years old and their retirement plan is wiped out either by depletion, theft, or a market crash? Are you going to say to them, get a job and begin saving for retirement? That is why I'm concerned and why I write and why I teach. I believe we need to better educate and better prepare people for the information age, the age where we all need to know a lot more about money, the age where we all need to be more financially responsible and depend less on a company or government to take care of us when our working days are over. Just look at the number. In the year 2010, the first of the 75 millions baby boomers begin to retire. Over the years, let's say that each of these 75 million retirees begin to collect just 1,000 per month from the promised government retirement plan that they have contributed to, and another 1,000 per month from the financial market. If my math is correct, 75 million times 1,000 comes to 75 billion per month from the government program and another 75 billion from the financial markets. $75 billion per month coming out from the government and from the financial markets will have a dramatic impact on both institutions. What will the government do? Increase taxes? Sounds familiar? What will the financial market do when 75 billion come out of the market instead of going in? I advise you to buy and hold, invest for the long term, and diversify your portfolio. Will the financial advisor continue to say the stock market on average will always goes up? The stock market on average always goes up. I don't have a crystal ball and I do not pretend to predict the future, but I can say this much. A combined 150 billions coming out of these two large institutions instead of going in will cause a few ripples in the economy. The old plan from old economy will cause millions of people financial hardship once their working days are over. Millions in America do not have a company retirement plan or personal retirement plan. What will they do? Look for a job, work all their life, move in with their kids or grandkids, planning to work hard all their life is the poor plan. Even though it's a poor plan, millions of people have this plan. Even some people who are making a lot of money today, they are working hard today, but have nothing set aside for tomorrow. For many baby boomers, time, our most important assets, is running out. Then I hear people say, I won't need much money after I retire. My house will be debt-free and my living expenses will be down. Well, it is true that your living expenses may be down, but what goes up are your medical expenses. Already, medicines, health, and dental care are too expensive for many working people. What will happen when the medical industry is faced with millions of retirees who need health care to live but have no money to pay? And if you believe in Medicare saving you, then you probably believe in the Easter Bunny also. Do you believe in Easter Bunny? Maybe this is why Alan Greenspan, former chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, says we need to start teaching financial literacy in our schools. We need to start teaching our kids to take care of themselves financially rather than teaching them to expect the government or the company they work for to take care of them after they retire. If you want to retire young and retire rich, you will need a better plan than most people have. Section 2 is about a very important leverage on having a plan on how to retire young and retire rich. Looking into our Singapore government or Singapore aspect itself, in Malaysia, is very much the same. But do we actually acknowledge that? And let me just read on to section 3. In section 3 itself, right? This is a section on your actions. There is an overused story about 3 birds sitting on a fence. The question is, if 2 birds decided to fly away, how many birds are left? The answer is 3 birds are left. The lesson is, just because you decided to do something does not mean you will do what you decided to do. In the real world, less than 5% of the US population is rich because 95% of the population may want to be rich, but only 5% take any actions. In book number 4, Rich Dad, Smart Kid, that's what I give my kids to read. I write about how our school system punishes kids for making mistakes. Yet if you look at how we learn from our mistakes. Most of us learn to ride a bicycle only by falling off a few times. We learn to walk by falling a few times. Then we get to schools and we are taught not to fall. We were taught that people who fall are stupid. We were taught that smart people are people who sit like the 3 birds on the fence and memorize the right answer. It's a small wonder why only 5% of Americans people become rich. If you look at some of the richest people in the world, people like Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, Michael Dell, founder of Dell Computers, Ted Turner, founder of CNN, Henry Ford, founders of Ford Motor Company, and Thomas Edison, founders of General Electric, they all did not finish school. I'm not saying that school is bad. In the information age, schools and education are more important than ever before. I'm saying that sometimes to be successful, we need to learn to not do what we have been taught to do. If you want to be more successful, simply watch how kids learn and copy them. One of the things I learned was how to overcome the fear of making mistakes, the fear of failing, and the fear of being embarrassed. Most young kids know how to do that naturally, and then we teach them not to do it in school. If I had not been able to learn how to make mistakes, how to fail, and how to overcome my embarrassment, I would not have been able to retire young and retire rich. 3 easy things everybody can do to become rich. I've always said that what you have to do to become rich is simple and easy. Almost anyone can do it. I'm happy to share this book because section 1 and 2 prepares you to do the simple things you need to do if you want to retire young and retire rich. I will go into the 3 main assets that make people rich and allow them to retire young. The 3 asset classes: real estate, paper assets, and businesses. In section 3, you will find out what you can do to acquire these 3 vitally important assets. The reasons my wife Kim and I could retire young and retire rich is because we spend our time acquiring assets rather than working for money. If you can read this book, you can do the simple action steps to begin acquiring these important assets. The assets that the rich 5% of the population acquire. I promise you that you can do the action steps, but you will need to read the first 2 sections of this book. If you do not read the first 2 sections, you may not be able to do the action steps, even if they are easy to do. As Rich Dad said to me years ago, getting rich begins with the right mindset, the right words, and the right plan. After you have that, the right actions are easy. So why did David meet Goliath? Rich Dad answers to this was David met Goliath so that he could meet the giant inside of himself. He also said, inside each of us is a David and a Goliath. Many people are unsuccessful is because they run when they meet Goliath. Without Goliath, David would never have become a giant of man. Rich Dad used his story to inspire his son and me to become financial giant. In other words, instead of killing the giant, Rich Dad inspire us to become giants. This book is about becoming financially free. Him and I acquire the freedom by acquiring and building assets that work hard so that we do not have to work. Once we are free, we simply continue to build our portfolio of the 3 asset class, which are business, paper assets, and real estate into giant portfolios. We retire young and become richer and richer by using all the leverage we could to build these assets. Today, these assets produce more and more income while we work less and less. If you would like to do the same, this book is for you. This book is written to assist you in finding your own financial freedom, freedom from the drudgery of earning a living. In closing, David becomes the giant by using all the leverage he could. You can do the same. This book is about bringing out the giant in you. How about you? Are you going to use leverage? For me itself, right? This is a very important concept for me. I put it in my phone every day. It's a leverage concept. It's using less for more. But what is your leverage? How can you do leverage every day? A lot of people have never understand about leverage. So they are working very, very hard each day, working so hard. I'm getting harder in my job. I'm working so hard. I'm becoming more busy. Usually I ask them one thing. Is becoming easy your goal? They say, no lah, I've earned. How can it be? 汉文老师怎么可能? Then I ask them, then why are you becoming so busy? Then they say, hey, I do not know. I say, that's whatever you are in now is very much is because what you have planned for 5 years ago. And whatever you're going to do now or plan will be exactly your future in the next 5 years. If you intend to have the same life or maybe even more busier in the next 5 years, continue. Do whatever you're doing. You're on the right track. You'll be becoming even more busier. But as we age itself, do we start to feel that our energy start to come down and now? It can be. So sometimes if we don't plan ahead, basically we are letting the society plan for us. And that is why financial literacy is so important. I would love to share these books even more with you by segment, chapter by chapter, so that every one of you, if you're not reading it, I'm reading it to you. And in one day itself, if the chance arise, I would love to meet up with you in the future. I hope that these are a bit of positive energies for you and your life. Let's keep in contact, and that will be my sharing for this segment. Okay, thank you so much.